Well, hi everyone. Today we are going to see one of the unique approaches for the popular disease diabetes by Team 8. I am Srinikeshan. Let's see what they have done on it. Diabetes mellitus. It's one of the popular diseases among the world, which may due to the imbalance of the glucose level in blood, where there are several alternative treatments has been available for this treatment for this disease. Let's see what are all they. Normally, doctors suggest injections, tablets, or else pancreatic transplant. But everything has their reasonable defects. Well, like in pancreatic transplant, the recipient may acquire immunosuppression, which may lead numerous number of health issues. Also, the donor to recipient ratio seems to be ridiculous as 3:1 in the in nowadays generations. Okay, what they are going to need to give a proper solution for this, they are looking for a thing, an external pump which produces which produces a proper glycemic control and also maintain it in a proper way so that the blood glucose level is maintained properly even with food or without food. Here they have used gene therapy as a technique to manipulate it. They have chosen mouse as an organism and they have induced the disease diabetes by administration of streptozotocin. They have done this only through somatin gene therapy and they have engineered the skeletal muscle cells so that it can produce the insulin and it can pump into the blood vessels so that it can regulate it. The injection of the engineering can be done either by viral method or either by plasmid mediated non-viral methods. Okay, why did they choose the skeletal muscle? It's very easy to access, minimal invasion, and we can give repeated number of doses in the skin and also its long-term expression. Let's go and see further what is there in it. Over to next person.
Hi everyone, I am Soundarya. Here our gene of interest is purine cleavable human proinsulin cDNA. Normally, insulin is the major hormone that is responsible for regulating the carbohydrates and fat metabolisms in our body. It consists of two polypeptide chain A and B. It's an active one. Its precursor proinsulin consists of two polypeptide chain A and B along with the another chain C. Proinsulin is nothing but the insulin accumulates in the secretory vesicles as a single polypeptide chain. But it's not a mature insulin. To become a mature insulin, the chain C of the proinsulin need to be removed and the chain A and B joined together by the disulfide bond. But unfortunately, majority of our body cells lack the specific protease that required for the insulin maturation. So we developed a new strategy to overcome this problem. The principal way to make the active hormone has involved the introduction of the proteolytic cleavage sites into the proinsulin molecule that are recognized by the enzyme furin. Urine is one of the protease enzymes that present in most of our tissues. That's why we modified our proinsulin to the purine cleavable human proinsulin cDNA. Over to the next person.
Hi guys, this is Soundarya. Do any of you have any idea what promoters are? They are actually a sequence of DNA that initiates transcription of a single RNA. Here, we majorly use two major promoters, CMV, cytomegalovirus promoter, and MFG, retroviral promoter. These are the most stable, ubiquitous promoters for a transgene exchange. But on comparing both CMV and MFG, CMV promoter produces high level recombinant protein, but the expression level of transgene reduces for further cultural times due to silencing, while MFG has high capacity to produce higher hormone production and the expression level of transgene is much higher than CMV, which is proved on the experiments conducted with the 10 rats, which used with CFG showed higher expression on further levels too. Next slide, please. Vectors. Here we use PGL3 vector. Actually, PGL3 luciferase vectors can provide a basic for the quantitative analysis of factors that potentially regulate mammalian gene expression. Here we have a basic vector PGL3 added with a promoter and pure HP1 for our pro-insulin. First off, we'll see about PCMB beta plasmid, which has PGL3 vector, CMV-IE, a human immediate yearly cytomegalovirus promoter, and LAGG gene, which is found from the E. coli beta-galactidose enzyme. The next off is PGL3-CMV pure HP1 plasmid, which was engineered by removing the original luciferase gene and cloning furin cleavable human proinsulin into NCO1 and XBA1 sites of PGL3 basic vector, where the CMV promoter is inserted in the PGL2 and HINT3 sites of the basic vector itself. Then last of is PGL3-MGF pure HP1 plasmid, which is much similar to CMV promoter plasmid. The only difference is that the promoter region where CMV we placed is replaced with MFG promoter into NHE1 and NCO1 sites of the promoter. Over to the next person.
Hi, this is Sivarioli, target muscle. The test was conducted in vitro on the C2-C12 myoblast of mus musculus, and the transfection efficiency was evaluated using beta-galactosidase assay. After successful transfection, in vivo testing was done on the tibialis anterior and quadriceps of mus musculus. Next slide, please. Electrotransfer method. Electrotransfer method is the process in which optimum electric pulses are applied over the target tissue or muscle by the use of electrodes, which cause a rise in transmembrane potential. Thereby, the membrane permeability has been raised. The electrodes are placed in transcutaneous alignment, that is, it is placed perpendicular to the section of the muscle. Even though the transfection efficiency is increased manifold, this method causes significant damage to muscle fibers, such as tumor induction and necrosis. Hence, there is a need or optimized procedure with minimal damage by setting up protocols. Over to the next person.
Hi everyone, this is Shivani. Establishment of an efficient electrotransfer protocol for transfection efficiency. In order to find the characteristics of the electric field associated with the transfection efficiency, 3 different protocols have been evaluated after intramuscular injection of CMV LAGZ carrying plasmid into the mice. Here, these 3 protocols differ by the different electric field strength, frequency, and amplitude used. So among them, protocol 1 has been designed in such a way that it has amplitude and frequency which is intermediate of other 2 protocols. For testing the efficiency of these protocols, 100 microgram or 50 microliter of plasmid was injected into one site of tibialis anterior or quadriceps muscles along with the electric pulses. Electrodes are placed either transcutaneously or on the surgically exposed muscle. So after 1 week, all the 3 protocols would be associated with high number of transfected myofibers, thus exhibiting medium or intense beta-galactosidase staining. Next slide, please. Here, these pictures represents the experimental results of tibialis anterior muscles that is performed with transcutaneous electrodes. The pictures 1, 2, 3 represents the different protocols used. Picture A, B, C represents the different strains used with different concentration. So from these pictures, we infer that high number of beta-galactosidase positive cells were seen in protocols 1 and 2 when compared with protocol 3, thus shows higher transfection rate. When we see following below graphs, graph 1 represents the enzyme activity of beta-galactosidase enzyme and graph 2 represents the enzyme activity of beta-galactosidase enzyme in terms of protein content. From the graph that has been depicted as per the data collected, higher activity has been seen in protocols 1 and 2, which confirms the higher variability. Over to the next person.
Hi, this is Krishna. Here the topic is optimization of protocols for muscle damage. By application of electric field, the efficiency of plasmid gene transfer to skeletal muscle can significantly improve. Here, the electrotransfer process is associated with significant muscle damage, which may result in loss of transfected muscle fibers. Here, the technique we are using is reduction of voltage, which reduces the number of muscle damage. But there is no change in number of transfected fibers. This combination treatment results in great improvement levels of transfected muscle without increasing muscle damage associated with electrotransfer process. Next slide, please. Indicator of muscle damage, creatine phosphokinase, CPK. CPK is an enzyme in the body. It is found mainly in heart, brain, and skeletal muscle. Whenever there is a damage of muscle, creatine kinase enzyme is released. To evaluate those creatine kinase enzyme release levels, we use CPK serum marker test. High levels of CPK indicate stress or injury to our heart or other muscles. Induction of muscle damage, cardiotoxin. Induction in muscle damage is caused by injection of cardiotoxin, which is extracted from snake venom. Cardiotoxin induces contractures of skeletal muscle. After plasmid injection and electrotransfer process with 3 different protocols, CPK levels were evaluated in untreated mice at 2 and 24 hours. From the graph itself, we can see at 2 hours in all electrotransfer groups, the CPK levels were evaluated. And after 24 hours, CPK values reduces to normal. Here it reveals protocol 1 is feasible with respect to both transfection efficiency and minimal muscle damage. Over to the next slide.
Hello everyone, this is Sri Gayatri here. Beta-galactosidase assay. Plasmid CMV laxid gene was injected for the visualization purpose. The entire tibialis and quadriceps muscle was removed surgically and it was immediately frozen on dry ice in 1.5 ml Eppendorf tubes and it was stored at minus 80 degrees centigrade. This was followed by muscle extraction. Beta-galactosidase activity was detected by a calorimetric assay. The enzyme activity was assayed on 25 microliter of muscle lysate. The picture here shows the comparison between the injection alone and the injection along with the electrotransfer protocol. Next slide, please. Then comes the histochemical staining for beta-galactosidase activity. The tibialis anterior and quadriceps muscle were frozen in TissueTech OCT compound. The cryostat serial sections of 20 micrometer were cut and they were mounted onto glass slides. These slides were fixed in 4% paraformaldehyde for 15 minutes at 4 degrees Celsius and then it was washed in PBS and it was stained for 3 to 5 hours in X-gal buffer at 37 degrees centigrade. All positive cells were counted for each section analyzed. This count was performed on at least 20 sections per muscle. Over to the next person.
Hi everyone. The recombinant proteins are usually formed by the transferring of foreign genes into the host cell. Here our recombinant protein is insulin. To detect the human insulin, we use the immunoradiometric assay with the help of monoclonal antibody, which recognize the mature human insulin. For the reduction of C-peptide, we use radioimmunoassay with a sensitivity of 0.07 nanogram per milliliter. Further, we proceed for reverse transcriptase PCR analysis. Here, by using the tag-gold DNA polymerase, human insulin was amplified with the primer sequences shown here. Finally, the RT-PCR products was analyzed by the gel electrophoresis. Over to the next person.
Hi, I'm Shruti. As we have seen, the plasmid with both CMV promoter and MFG promoter serves the purpose of insulin production. But it is very important to know that which promoter makes it more efficient. So the first criteria is the level of insulin in bloodstream. To test this, 10 mice were injected with the plasmid containing CMV promoter and the insulin levels were noted. In 7 out of 10 mice, the insulin was detected at week 2 and completely disappeared at week 4. Similarly, 10 mice was injected with plasmid containing MFG promoter and the insulin levels were recorded. In all the 10 mice, the insulin levels attained peak at week 1 and started declining at week 2. But the insulin persisted till 4 weeks in all the mice. It was present in 4 out of 10 mice till week 6 and then gradually started disappearing at week 8. Have a look at the graph. This shows the insulin levels in bloodstream stayed longer in mice injected with plasmid containing MFG promoter. Next slide, please. The next criteria is the survival rate. The mice injected with CMV promoter survived only up to 4 weeks after electrode transfer. The mice injected with the MFG promoter survived up to 10 weeks, that is, 2 weeks even after the disappearance of insulin produced. But the diabetically untreated mice died within 3 weeks due to rapid declination in body weight. Stability in body weight is also an important criteria. Have a look at the graph. In the graph, the circle indicates the untreated mice in which the body weight declines sharply. The triangle indicates the CMV injected mice, which maintains a stable body weight till death, and the square indicates the MFG injected mice that maintains a stable body weight with slight increase in week 3 and 4 and subsequent declination before death. This confirms the MFG injected mice has a longer survival with stable body weight. Over to the next person.
Hello everyone, I'm Shweta. One of the main benefits is the reduction, or we can say normalization of the blood glucose level in both CMV and MFG injected mice. In the bar graph shown, the diabetic untreated mice, which is represented by the white bar, shows no significant reduction in blood glucose level tested both before and after feeding. Whereas in CMV and MFG injected mice, or we can say treated mice, which are represented by the colored bar, there was a significant reduction in blood glucose level. It was observed that in CMV injected mice, the blood glucose level was reduced from 472 milligrams per deciliter to 151 milligrams per deciliter. Similarly, in MFG injected mice, the blood glucose level reduced from 527 milligrams per deciliter to 139 milligrams per deciliter. In short, the blood glucose levels obtained in fasted MFG mice were comparable to blood glucose level observed in a normal mice, that is, in a non-diabetic mice. Next slide, please. The next benefit is the absence of hypoglycemia, that is, low blood glucose level on prolonged fasting in treated mice. To increase the risk of hypoglycemia, prolonged fasting was performed in both normal and MFG injected mice. It was observed that the MFG injected mice progressively reduced their blood glucose level. As it is shown in the graph, the blood glucose level of the treated mice matched with that of normal mice after some hours, say 16 to 20 hours. Therefore, in conclusion, no hypoglycemia was observed in treated mice. And that's it for the presentation on T1DM gene therapy, and the references are mentioned further. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.